Start with a presidential debate, a very, very important debate for both candidates, just as the polls show that the race is getting tighter, especially in some key swing states. First of all, we're going right there, right in Denver, where Colleen McCain-Nelson joins us to give us a sense of what the feeling is on the ground. Colleen, welcome.
Good morning.
So
both candidates...
You've been following the Romney campaign. I was going to ask you whether what the feeling is among the Romney campaign in a debate that many say could be make or break for him.
Well, there's definitely a sense of anticipation with the Romney campaign. He's been here since Monday doing final preparations before he even flew to Denver. He did a full dress rehearsal of the debate in Boston. He and Rob Portman, the senator from Ohio, who's been standing in for the president in debate preparations, they both wore suits. They went to an event hall. They stood the exact distance on the stage apart that they will stand tonight. They had a moderator the exact distance apart. So they did a full dress rehearsal. They've been pretty intense about preparing Mitt Romney for this moment. So they know that there's a lot riding on it, and they've worked hard to get ready.
I guess one of the big questions for Romney is whether he can at least draw the great debater. You know, Obama's got this great reputation as debater, can draw into a tie. Is that the expectation within the Romney campaign, or do they think that their candidate can actually beat Obama at this debating business?
Well, of course, both campaigns have been trying to kind of lower expectations and say that the other candidate has an advantage. So the Romney folks are quick to say that only one candidate on the stage has ever been in a presidential debate for a general election before. But the Romney folks certainly hope that this can move the needle, that they can challenge the president on some things. In previewing the debate, they've said that they're going to point out that when they think the president isn't telling the truth, when they think that the president is mischaracterizing Mitt Romney's record or his own. So the challenge for them the challenge for Romney is to kind of attack the president aggressively, but also to somehow seem likable at the same time. Those are two things that he needs to do that are kind of at odds.
And in the Obama camp, I mean, what is the mood and what is it that they're hoping to achieve here when, as you pointed out, they have a lot to lose?
Right. Well, the Obama camp, President Obama has stayed away. He isn't in Denver yet. He's been preparing in Nevada. So they've kind of been holed up getting him ready there, and they've revealed a little bit less about their preparations. They haven't really wanted to show their hand.
And Colleen, sorry to interrupt. We're seeing right now the footage of the preparations. The hub of the presidential debate is on WSJ War Stream. Sorry, carry on.
Right. And so, but their goals are similar to Mitt Romney's in that they want to connect with voters. They want to make their case to the undecided. But in some regards, their overarching goal is to do no harm. They feel like they're in a reasonably good position, even though it's still close. The polls show Obama with a small lead. And so they don't want to do anything to change the narrative or the trajectory at this point. They want to just kind of keep things the status quo and not do any harm from this debate. So they don't want a memorable moment that is memorable for any sort of negative reason.
Indeed. Well, Colleen, thank you so much. We'll be watching alongside millions of Americans. So thank you so much for giving us that first-hand position on the ground. Next, we'll look at the situation in the polls. The polls, the WSJ NBC poll has been somewhat surprising. You can see here there is a tightening of the race with President Barack Obama, 49%, Mitt Romney at 46%. Crucially, this is within the margin of errors. And remember, we're looking here at likely voters, which is the important constituency here. To discuss this, we're going to our pollmeister, man who knows more about polls than I will ever know, is Neil King, who joined us from one of the swing states in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hi, Neil. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about how we should interpret this, because a lot of people thought that Obama had this one sealed by now.
Well, I mean, the poll is an interesting one. If you look at registered voters, Obama has a pretty wide margin, 7 points, 51% to 44%. When we tighten the screen down to those that we determine to be more likely to actually turn out and vote, it gets tighter, 49, 46. But the important thing to keep in mind is the 49% number. He's actually a tiny bit over 49. Basically, it means that for Romney to turn this around, he starts to need to take away voters from Barack Obama. And if you look back, it is worth noting, all the way back into the 40s, it's never been the case that a candidate at this point in a campaign, this beginning of October, who has 49% in national average of polls has then gone on to lose. candidates don't normally crater when they have that kind of position. But if it's going to happen, it's going to have to start happening tonight. This is one of the few last moments where numbers can really be moved.
A key juncture indeed. There was another very surprising number in the poll that we did, which suggested that voters are tired of Washington gridlock. They want a one-party rule. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's fascinating. We've been asking this question going back to the mid-1980s, which is, if it was up to you, would you rather see one party run both Congress and the White House, or there to be divided government? And always there's been this sentiment that divided government is a better way to go. This poll, we had 52%, the highest number by far we've ever had, saying that no, same party government is the better way to go. And if you look inside the numbers, it's very strong sentiment among Democrats in particularly, but also among core Republicans and a lot of it is just, like you said, this reflection of the frustration over the fact that just so little seems to happen in Washington, and people figure, well, if the two parties can't compromise and cooperate, maybe one party should just be given the whole show.
So within that context, who does that help? Is that a sign that then they want more Democratic rule or more Republican rule? How can we interpret that for the presidential race?
It's a little tricky to say, of course, because, of course, the Republicans want their party to rule and Democrats want theirs to rule. But I think one thing it does complicate is if that's the sentiment out in the land, it's going to make it more complicated for the down ballot candidates, the Senate candidates, and the House candidates in states that where the people aren't likely to be voting for instance, Obama. If you're a Democrat running in a red state, that could complicate things for you, and vice versa. So it could make things harder for Scott Brown in Massachusetts,
right,
where you really have to rely on ticket splitters.
And this is an interesting point, I guess. The fact is that we could be looking at an election that is somewhat different from all the others. There's a sense that the U.S. political system kind of works in similar ways, and they like the cohabitation, as the French would call it. So is this a bit of a turning point for the American political system?
Well, it's hard to say whether this will last, this particular sentiment, because these things definitely swing. But I think it's a good point you make, because this, I think, is going to be an aberrational election in so many ways. I mean, if Obama goes on to win, and at the moment the odds are certainly in his favor, that in itself will break so long a precedent of a president going into a re-election with the unemployment rate as high as it is, the sense of dissatisfaction within the population where it is, and still going on to win would be something that we haven't seen in our lifetimes. And that would be another thing that's different. It's hard to say whether there's a full order, kind of reordering or rejiggering of the way people want the country to be governed in terms of party, unity or split party system.
But it's very interesting turning point. Well, Neil, thank you so much for this contribution. That's just one more reason to keep a close eye on the debate. And, it's a big debate, so we're all out the big guns with Alan Murray tonight on WSJ.com at 8:30 p.m. We'll have 4 star-studded guests, starting from former New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. We'll also have Bob Barnett, who prepared more presidential candidates for presidential debates that he cares to remember. We also have Glenn Hubbard, who is one of Mitt Romney's key economic advisors, as well as Rob Wright, who was the Labor Department head during the Clinton administration. A really star-studded cast that will be here at 8:30 with Alan Murray.